Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to the Armoury. Welcome to Full Time Sports Network, and welcome to a special show where Ian Wright has been awarded the OBE. And obviously, we want to talk righty now. So, guys, how are we both doing? Moss? How are you doing?
My Canadian football team lost to our enemies, Winnipeg, last night, and Norway's looking like crap. They should hire Holland's dad and Odegaard's dad and get this over with. This guy's been terrible, man. Like
loving life. Brilliant,
Scotland,
brilliant.
good jersey, Bobby. I like Scotland, but it was the main thing was get Norway into the Euro Cup so these two worldly stars can show their stuff. But man, it's not looking good. It's not looking good.
I'm loving life. Currently, Norway are fifth in the league because Cyprus and Georgia are playing.
Cyprus and Georgia are playing right now.
Yeah, right now.
Hey,
but Brenny,
Moss. Sorry, that's not all, Moss. I mean, I think Canada got knocked out of the World Cup of darts.
No, we won. We're playing tomorrow in the final. That's my only refuge. We might win a trophy tomorrow.
What, they won today?
They won No, they won on Thursday, 2-0. US beat Mexico 3-0.
Oh, wow.
So it's Canada-USA final with Mexicans have all the tickets to the game. They're gonna be booing USA. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, 100%. But
you had to buy package tickets for both matches. So Mexicans bought up in Vegas. They bought up all the tickets almost.
I was talking about you, my friend. Darts. I'm good. I was talking about darts.
It's one sport that Moss does not talk about is the darts. Funny enough, it's
the darts. Yeah. Oh, probably because
John. I'm good at darts, but they don't ever show it, but I'm good at it.
Oh, we have the World Cup of darts in. It's a massive thing that we watch.
Yeah, I know. Like everyone gets. Fun. It's like I would say, it's kind of like in winter we have curling. Summer, maybe baseball, like where people just go and to drink and have a great time, like that's what darts seems like it's just a big party.
Why not? Exactly, it should be. Right, let's get
good, my man. I'm very good, by the way. Yeah, it's been a good weekend so far.
Yeah, I'm loving today. I'm happy.
Isn't there a Dutch guy that's super good at darts?
Yeah, there's a few. There's a Belgian as well. But
Austria just
you're thinking of Van Gerwen. You're thinking of Van Gerwen.
Yeah.
But right, let's get into the comments. Mr. B is definitely an Arsenal fan. I've misread that, but I'm saying it for a reason. Pick up to the Man United agenda. But he does love variety. Massive gracious to Ian Wright. Big up to the panel from Bargav.
Buddy Luke.
This is an absolute disgrace. Okay. I'm disappointed.
What? My hair's a disgrace? What?
Ian Wright Honoured is deserved, unlike Fallon Sherrock, who got one for beating a man in the darts. No, I think it's the fact that she's brought darts for women to the forefront. I think that's what it's about.
Yeah, she brought it to another level,
Yeah.
And she's beaten quite a few fellas over the last few years.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I'm disappointed in Arsenal. I would be okay. How Arsenal gonna honour Ian Wright without wheeling out merch? I would be fuming. Right, okay. Canada are out in the darts, so they have been out of the darts. Raymond van Barneveld, 5 times world champions. Yeah, from Holland too. Also, yes. But guys, this is obviously about Ian Wright. We're talking about darts and all sorts, anything other than Ian Wright. But Ian Wright obviously is a legend at the Arsenal. But what I'm going to go back into where it all began for him. So he started at a Sunday league team called.
Yeah, he was kind of like Vardy back then. He was a late bloomer.
Yeah, 10MB exactly.
10MB, isn't it?
Yeah, where obviously also his 2 sons played for as well. Signed semi-professional.
His sons are even legends.
He signed on for Greenwich and got paid £30 a week. He was then, after 6 or 7 matches, he was then spotted by Crystal Palace after a tip-off from Dulwich Hamlet's manager Billy Smith, and was invited for a trial at Selhurst Park. Having impressed then Steve Coppell, he signed a professional contract for Crystal Palace in August of 1985. just 3 months short of his 22nd birthday. So he was a late bloomer.
They always thought he had attitude. I read his book too that Brenny was showing earlier, and listened to his pods talk about his past. Everyone always assumed he was a troublemaker and stuff growing up, and he'd get out of teams. But yeah, he just wasn't given the chance until Steve Coppell snapped him up.
Yeah, exactly. In his Crystal Palace career, he did score 117 goals in 253 starts. In 2005, he was voted into their Centenary 11 and was named.
Ronaldo just scored, by the way. Boo. Oh, offside.
And was named as their player of the century. He has obviously gone on to win awards, which I will go into in a moment. But he did join Arsenal in September of 1991 for 2.5 million, which at the time was our club record fee. Obviously went on to score 200 and no, not 200. How many was it? How many goals was it again? Oh, 185 goals from 288 appearances. Yeah. Sorry, I got the numbers mixed around. He's got 11 hat tricks, which is he's third in the record for that, I believe, behind Jimmy Brain and Jack Lambert. Is that right, Brenny?
You're cutting in and out.
Jack Lambert, I'm aware of, but Jimmy Brain, I wasn't aware of.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't aware of that.
My information was it was Jimmy Brain just was above. BX saying Vardy and Wright are very similar.
You cut out. I thought you were saying Jimmy Greaves.
No. He used to get the bus to sell us park on match days. Love it. 2.5 million is crazy. You couldn't buy a single player for 2.5 million players nowadays. How much would that be justified for inflation? Okay, there's a question.
2.5 million, that's like 30 million now.
It's got to be more than that, surely.
At least 30, yeah.
How much would you pay? Okay, well, how much would you pay for Ian Wright nowadays?
That when we saw him at Palace, kind of thing. Oh yeah, he'd be, because a striker, he'd be 80, 90 million.
What about you, Brenny?
It was a huge thing when we took him away from Mark Bright. Remember that, Brenny? How good a duo they were?
It was massive. It was massive. I would say around 60 mil, only because we signed him at 27 years of age.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Very true. Right, let's get into his awards. He has won quite a few awards, funny enough. And not just at the Arsenal. I've got.
So I would say it's a fact. Maybe I'd say about 65. And also, it was David Dean, and David Dean was a magician.
Yeah,
David Dean was a great negotiator as well. And you've heard the story, haven't you? What he said when he spoke to Ron Note at the time, and he said, "Give me a figure."
Yeah,
Ron Note was like 2.5 million. Like, okay, yeah. And negotiations didn't take very long around then. Didn't take long at all. So yeah.
That was a big payday for Palace back then.
Well, it's funny because David Dean's son is the one that is linking us with Xavi Simons, because obviously he's having a lot to do with that deal.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's one to look out for, because if David Dean's son can pull that one off for us, for Xavi Simons, I'll be well happy with that signing. But these are his awards. He has made the playoffs in the second division with Crystal Palace, won the full Members' Cup. Can't even remember what the heck that is. FA Cup runner-up in 89-90 at the Arsenal.
That was the one.
What was the full Members' Cup? Because I don't remember.
Full Members' Cup. There was a few teams in the first and the second division that would take part in that cup, and it was a Wembley appearance as well. But it also used to be called the CMOD Cup. CMOD sponsored it as well. CMOD sponsored it years ago. And they beat Everton 4-1 in 1990-91 season. I think I scored 2 of those goals in that match. So yeah, it was just a tournament. It never got you into Europe or anything, but it was just one of them tournaments where the lesser sides would take part.
Okay.
No disrespect.
Like that.
It was in the back then, and the second division. So it even gave chances to those who were in the second division to even make a final, final at Wembley. They are
kind of like the League Cup nowadays. We used to have, like Brenny saying, there was so many different cups. They kind of combined them all into one League Cup. Yeah.
It was below the league. It was way below the League Cup then, because obviously the League Cup back then would get you a UEFA Cup spot. So
back then, what was it? Littlewood's Cup or Milk Cup? It had so many names.
Yeah. Coca-Cola.
At Arsenal, he obviously won the Premier League in 1998. Won 2 FA Cups in 93 and 98. Won the Football League Cup in 93. Won the European Cup Winners' Cup. Even though he was suspended, he still got a medal for that. For the final against
Johnson, that's right.
West Ham, he won the UEFA Intertoto Cup in 1999. At Burnley, he got a runners-up for the second division. At Burnley, individually, he actually won the Golden Boot back in 92. Won the Player of the Season at Arsenal twice. Won Player of the Year at Crystal Palace once. Other than that, it was just little rewards other than that. Moss, obviously the reason I've invited you on this, because we were chatting at the end of the watch along, which I will remind you, Scotland beat Norway. I'm going to do that for a good week.
You're right.
I wanted you to talk about, because obviously you're not in the UK, you're in Canada, so for us it's slightly different because obviously we hear the press at the time. But so your memories of Ian Wright, please.
Yeah, like Brandy's would be different than mine. He would have been on the inside, but like back then, like you guys now feel like you're out of the loop a little bit with not getting all the games like we did. But back then, we would have a show that was a week later describing what all happened the weekend before. And it was a Scottish guy, Graham Leggett, bless his soul. He was unbelievable for Canada soccer and getting it on TV way back in the 80s. And he would come on and tell us, show us the highlights and talk and give us updates and transfers and things. And it was that 89-90, like Brenny was talking about, where Crystal Palace, we barely won that FA Cup. And he was absolutely fantabulous with Mark Bright. Like, we could not deal with him. Like, we had to score. Remember, they were giving us fits. And I had in my time in the 80s there, Kevin Campbell was the guy coming up. He was supposed to be the star coming. I had him and David Rocastle, of course, Tony Adams and Alan Smith, Spudger, all these, because I would get Shoot magazine. So they'd be a few weeks late getting over here as a kid, and then I'd be like putting up the pictures of my bedroom, and those are the guys I had, like Rocastle and Paul Davis and Kevin Campbell was coming, Smith and Tony Adams, and then when it was announced, and I probably found it later, much later than Brady did, that we were getting Ian Wright, I was like, this is awesome. I love this guy. I couldn't believe how good he was on Palace, and we were getting this guy. And I was like, this is it. And then, that unfortunately, I think Jose's talking about it or someone, it kind of almost didn't let Kevin Campbell get into the side. Like, he was his backup then. And I was just so just so pumped up when we signed Ian Wright. And then it was just like a whole nother level. I was telling Bobby earlier with the signing of Bergkamp, because he was already my favorite player and he was Dutch. And then we signed him, and then to hear the story, because Wright's talked about it on a few pods and his book and stuff about, I would have always thought like, geez, he must have been like upset, like you're going to get way less time and Bergkamp's coming, the superstar. But he was just absolutely over the moon, and he tells about the story meeting Bergkamp at the gas station and just hugging him, and Bergkamp's like, what's going on here? This guy's just jumping on me, and he's one of my new teammates, I guess, and I just loved Ian Wright, like just enthusiasm for the game, and it didn't matter if it was a bad pitch, good pitch, tough team, lower team, he was always scoring, and just you could just see the love of the game beaming out of this guy, and over here I was so pumped, and I had a little Ian Wright JVC jersey, and but it's hard to choose. Probably for you too, Brenny. Like, I love Tony Adams so much. I love Ian Wright so much. And then Bergkamp came along, and then Ian Wright came along. It's hard to have a favorite, because all four of those are just way up there for me, But from a Canadian's perspective and being an Arsenal fan growing up, when everyone's Liverpool and telling you about all their great strikers, and Wrighty was the guy for me, and he's always done so wonderful with television, and he just describes the game well. He's enthusiastic about it. I don't know what he got for doing this. Maybe a lot of charity work. You know, it used to be the Queen's Honors, now it's King's Honors, of course, and our King as well. And I don't know what he gets it for, but like Bobby said, just a great human being. And he was promoting women's football when it was unpopular to do so. He was ahead of the curve, and I bless him for that. You know, I think that's why Arsenal Ladies is an attractive, you know, we're signing women like Russo, and he's put it on the map, and he promotes it nonstop, and the charity work he does in his own area he grew up in, and just he gives himself, you know, 100% to everything he does, and you can see it in his kids, and now his grandkids or his grandsons are even playing well in the championship and everything, and yeah, just a wonderful footballer and a great human being, so it's well deserved.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree with more. Brenny, what's your memories, mate?
Oh, got a lot. I remember when he caught my eye with the Palace team, and in the old second division. And when you'd watch second division highlights, and you'd think, "Wow, this guy's something else. He's brilliant," you know, because the second division back then was tough. And himself, Mark Bright already knew about, because he had a spell at Leicester, so he'd already played top 5. So to drop down a division and give that experience and know-how, you know what I mean? That partnership, it was kind of like Frank McAvenny and Tony Cottee at West Ham in the 80s, because they scored I think 1 or 2 seasons they scored 60 plus goals in total.
Everton, Tony Cottee.
It was the same with these two, and yeah, and I remember when because they got promoted the season we won the league. Yeah, 89. And I said, wow, this team that Koppel has built, I mean, I think they do well to stay up in the first division. And well, when they came up, I think Ian Wright had 2 broken legs in that season at like 89-90. And even though they lost,
he only just got healthy for that FA Cup run. You're right.
That's right. Yeah, he came on as a sub and scored instantly. And I thought they were unlucky not to beat United in that first game. And he still, despite his injury, he still scored quite a few goals. But then I thought it was 1990-91 season where the Wright partnership just like it did in the second division. I think they finished third. We won the league, Liverpool second. They finished third, and they were surrounded by some good players, some hard working players. You know, grafters. You know, Jeff Thomas, Andy Gray. You know, those kinds of players. You know, even Eddie McGoldrick was a grafter at Palace, and he worked hard on the wing. I know we signed him and he didn't have the best of careers, but I mean, I liked Eddie McGoldrick anyway. But yeah, it was only when I didn't know at the time, but when he was still playing for Palace, because I saw this years later, because social media wasn't like how it is today, of course. Yeah. And if you've seen the Righty Rocky documentary from a few years back, I mean, I've watched it so many times it never gets boring. But there's a video on that. I think it was the summer of 91. And Wrighty's there with Rocastle because they grew up on the same estate, as we all know. And it was and they were asked about whether or not, you know, they'd love to play together at Arsenal. And I think even before then, Wrighty was probably thinking, you know what, I'd love to, you know, I love Palace, but I'd love to play for someone like Arsenal. And when he signed, the day he signed, I was coming over from school. And I looked on the CFAX. When I saw Wright signs for Arsenal 2.5 million, I thought that's a joke. I thought, what are we signing him for? When we've got Alan Smith, Kevin Campbell, Paul Merson, Andy Cole, didn't he wasn't really getting anywhere really, and I thought he looked like he could be a player of some quality, just like Hannah's mentioned yesterday when he played in the Makita tournament. But then George Graham said he got him in because Kevin Campbell was out for a few weeks, and he said that we missed him. And I get what he meant, because we had some results then, but then I was so on the 23rd of September 1991, coming home from school, seeing that, I was like, wow. And then he scored on his debut on my birthday, a couple of days later against Leicester. And I then thought, you know what? Even before he kicked the ball for us, I said he could be a player for us, and the rest is history.
He's such a goal poacher.
Yeah, and also with him, he's the kind of player that he could, for someone at 5'9", he could score goals with his left foot, his right foot.
And he could leap. He could leap and head, like, unbelievable.
Yeah. He was a guy. He was a guy that, when we had the set pieces, set pieces. Anders Limpar crossed the ball in, steep ball flick on. If it wasn't Big Tony Adams or Alan Smith, you got little Ian Wright there giving it.
He could leap, man.
And he did that twice against Newcastle. And you're like, what? And he could leap like Les Ferdinand. But I mean, Les Ferdinand could leap higher, jump higher than he could. But wow, what a player! And another thing I will say about Ian Wright, the love that he had for Arsenal. I mean, he was just like a kid in a park playing football with no goalposts, but with he had that sports bag there. You can put the other Nike sports bag there. Yeah. Oh, get someone in goal. That's Ian Wright. It could scoring goals for him meant so much. And also what I loved about his attitude playing for the Arsenal was he didn't care about the money. He did not care about how much he was getting paid. He didn't care if Tony Adams was getting paid more than himself or Alan Smith. He didn't care. It's like he said one time when he went into David Dean's office and was like, okay, right, we got a contract on tape for you. All right, where do I sign? But Ian, don't you want to see what's on the table for you? No, I just want to sign. That's Ian Wright, and I cannot speak more highly of him. And I could go on all day talking about Ian Wright.
Yeah, honestly, he's for me. Obviously, I went to Highbury a lot when I was a kid because that's where from down there. So he was always the number one person at the window, and Brenny knows what I'm on about at Highbury. The window. He was the one that's pretty much there, opening the window with all the fans outside. He was the trouble. Yeah. Honestly, I love the guy. I always loved the guy, and I was quite lucky when I was quite lucky when he left Arsenal. He went to West Ham, so I still got to see him at West Ham as well for a bit. So I was quite lucky, to be honest. Right, I'm going to go through some comments. And I've got two questions to ask you. So I want you to think about it whilst I go through the comments. I want your favourite game and your favourite goal for Wrighty. That's for both of you. So while I go through the comments, it gives you some time to think. Because I've been thinking all day about this. Right, big up to DWTT. Hope you're doing well. We bought Armoury for 10.5. How much would he be worth? Definitely 200 for me. Definitely 200.
Yeah.
Armoury is just out of this world. Can Eddie be a Kevin Campbell 2.0? Now, when I talk about Eddie, and I know it's very unfair, but I do look at Ian Wright and go, what is he missing from Ian Wright's game? Way too much. That's why I can't see him succeeding at Arsenal. That's the type of person I think he should be being, but he's not. This is where I see Balogun. I see Balogun more like a Wrighty, but he's not going to fit in our system because I don't think Ian Wright would fit in our system now, because he's a different type of player. I will get into that question from Arsenal Forever at the end because it is a question to the panel. Losing Cole and Vieira killed us for years. Doing Ian Wright's arrival hurt Kevin Campbell. Yes, but you don't think so?
At first, yeah, because it was Wright and Smudger up front. But then later on in the season, when I think it was 91-92 season, we went on, what was it, an 18-game unbeaten run? And
yeah, Campbell was playing in that time. Yeah,
we weren't going to catch Leeds. We weren't going to beat Leeds to the title, but the form that we showed, Alan Smith wasn't scoring goals. He was playing well, but he wasn't scoring. So then I can't remember what game it was from, but he went with Wright and Campbell up front for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And Alan Smith would come off the subs bench, But then it wasn't always. Before Alan Smith retired, I would say Wright and Campbell probably played more games together than Smith and Wright did.
Okay.
Me personally. Sorry, I don't think, and that's why I don't think it hurt Kevin Campbell.
Okay, fair enough. Right, Arsenal forever doing a bit of free advertising for Nike. Just do it. Arsenal season reviews from 90 to 98. I'm disappointed Arsenal didn't do the Ian Wright collection. I was thinking of this, and I was thinking, what would it be? Just all gold, because his golden tooth. I don't know what else. But BX Gunnar, yes, I shared the video with some guys in the WhatsApp group earlier about how, and this is Sean Wright Phillips' daughter, so it is Ian's granddaughter. But she is looking really sharp.
That young, she's pretty skilled.
Yeah, and it's very clear she supports Arsenal. So hopefully, Arsenal ladies keep an eye on her. And you never know, we might have another Wright playing for the Arsenal. I love when a pundit, Ian Wright has always said, yes. He wears Arsenal on his sleeve. He is not a non-biased Arsenal fan. And I love that about him. He will scream and he will shout when Arsenal don't do well as well, which I do like about him. He's very fair. The Rice celebration top notch, 100%. So did Sterling, Rashford, and Kane get honoured before Wrighty? Yes. Longer story about that. I'm not going to get into that today. Remember Ian Wright chip against John Lukage at Leeds United? Yes. I'm going to go into my favourite goal, and mine's a lob, but it's a slightly different one. I really miss Highbury, 100%. It's a show I can actually do the Highbury background because it applies to Ian Wright today, so it's nice to see.
Oh, I loved Highbury.
Yeah, it's always going to be my favourite stadium, and I've been to a few. But it's always my favourite. Our ambition died when we knocked down for a bit. I do agree with what you're saying because of the reason that we were sold about moving from Highbury to the Emirates. However, this season I do believe we're going somewhere. The classic football shirts, what I wore episode with Righty was great, especially when they gave him back his golden boot. Tony Saint should have been a knight, really. Me too, Arsenal, for I miss Highbury as well. I'm literally in tears.
That's what I thought it was yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. My favourite Wrighted goal, easily Everton 1993. Okay, not mine. Let's see if anyone picks mine today. Right, we're going to start with you, Brenny. Your favourite game and then your favourite goal from Wrighty, please, mate.
Favourite game. Favourite game. So many. And I've been to games where I've seen Ian Wright score a hat-trick. So, favorite game, favorite goal's not the difficult one. Favorite game from a. I'll tell you what. From an importance perspective, if you're talking in terms of Ian Wright, I would say the FA Cup final replay, because he scored. And we also won the replay.
Yeah.
That was the Sheffield Wednesday one, Brenny?
Yeah, that's the Sheffield Wednesday one. But to be honest, I would have to put that. If you're talking, let's say we're just talking in terms of Ian Wright, I'd have to put that as a number 2 because the number 1 for me would be the Bolton game where he got the record.
Yeah, but also remember that he thought he broke it, didn't break it, but then did score again and then broke the record. Yeah, it was a crazy. And honestly, the fans were also with Wrighty because I was one of them. And honestly, we all thought he broke it. because we were just with the passion and the celebration, and then we realised, oh, actually he hasn't broken it, but then he did score. So yeah, that was a brilliant game.
Did you hear what he said on his video? Did you hear what he said in his video about that?
No, I didn't.
Basically said on the Rewriting the Record video, he said when I did that, I goes, you idiot. And he said, if I hadn't got the second goal, I would look like a right bleep, bleep, bleep. And that's what happened. They bleeped it out what it said. So my favourite Ian Wright goal. Oh.
Yeah, this one's tricky. I know it's a hard one.
I know it is. I know Wright, he said his all-time favourite goal was for the Arsenal was what the silver one just said, Everton. That was his favourite.
Yeah.
But that's the one I was going to say.
But see, for me, I mean, I know because that took a lot of work. But Ian Wright goals, I mean, there were so many of them. I mean, there was the one against Leeds that I loved. But I'll tell you one goal that stood out for me, and I'm like, wow, what a strike. And it was one of those opportunist strikes. It was, for me, I'd have to go with the goal. Actually, no, I'm not going to go with that one because there was one better. There was one. It was Swindon. What a lob that was!
Yeah, that's on the list.
He's taken mine.
You've mentioned all of ours, I think.
Hey, was that yours?
Was that
yours, Bobby?
Yeah, that's mine. That's my favourite goal that I've seen. Yeah. Because it was a Kevin Campbell. It was a Kevin Campbell.
I'd have to go with that.
Yeah.
On me, it'd be that goal.
Yeah, it was a Kevin Campbell hat trick that day, and then Rice scored the fourth.
And then he put the icing on the cake.
Yeah, it was. The game was all down to Campbell pretty much, but Rice, fantastic strike. Yeah. So Moss, favorite game, favorite goal, mate.
Yeah, like Brenny said, like when him and Kevin, like it was like a thing. Like I think Graham loved Smith and Wright, like Brenny was saying, but when Campbell and Wright were both healthy and going, man, it was cooking with those two.
Yeah. So
it was disappointing, but when we kind of let Kevin Campbell go, but then it was like, oh, Bear Camp, oh, magnificent. But yeah, there were so many big games, and like you mentioned, both you guys mentioned how he couldn't play that Cup Winners' Cup final. He scored some brilliant goals on that cup run. I think it was a quarterfinal Auxerre or something. He scored a brilliant goal. But yeah, my favorite was already mentioned. The one did Tony mention it or something? Everton.
Yeah.
If Maradona or Bearcamp or someone scores that goal, it's like a goal, for the lifetime, like celebrate it. It was amazing what he did. He made it look so easy. Like flicked it over and then over. Oh, it was unbelievable, that goal on Southall on Everton that time. But my favorite game might have been he got a last minute winner on Tottenham, and just the way he celebrated. Like that one was maybe my favorite game because it's just he relished burying Tottenham.
And he went all the way to Seaman, didn't he? He ran all the way to David Seaman.
yeah. That was my favorite game, I think.
Yeah. Well, the relationship between him and Seaman was incredible.
We got John Jansen. We have John Jansen.
Yeah, well, we'll get into these comments now. Big up to Highbury's local badger. Love the name. Big up Bobby Moss and Brenny. Great show. Thank you very much. Big up to Ash, otherwise known as Boots Bants. Campbell got a hat trick that game against Swindon. He did. Chip from 40 yards. Absolutely. It was a sublime finish because the goalkeeper was just slightly off his line. It wasn't like he was miles away. He was slightly off his line.
He made things look easy, right? That was the problem. He made things look easy.
Kevin Campbell scored more goals for Nottingham Forest than he did at Arsenal. And big up to Jon Jansen, not Jonny Jansen, my favourite Dane. But yeah, big up to you. A lot of people don't actually know that Jon Jansen still works for Arsenal. He's actually really...
He's a scout?
Yeah, he does. That's right.
Yeah,
he was a quality player. Denmark.
I love him.
Yeah.
I love him. Him and Stefan Schwarz, for me, are like one of my favourite midfielders. So I will never take any slander against those two. I love them because Stefan Schwarz had one heck of a hit on him. When he wanted to hit that ball, he hit it with some venom. Another one of my favourite writing moments is whenever Tony Adams scored and he put his jump on his back.
He was so happy for everyone. That was the thing, right? He was so happy for anyone that scored. Like he would go nuts.
That's what our team was like back then. It was everyone loved one another. Yes, some of them might have a bit of feud falling out. I don't know that when Lee Dixon came into the Arsenal team, there was certain words had with him, and but Arsenal are just a family, and that's why I love it. And we're back there in that moment again. Now we've lost it for a little bit, but
we're getting it back.
We're back again, and that's that. If I know Moss didn't like the awards, the results, but the fact that the club atmosphere was actually voted for was a very big, important thing for me, because a lot of the fans had noticed it, and it was a lot of non-Arsenal fans that voted for this as well. And it's very important.
The roar is back. The roar is back.
Yeah, and that is part of Arsenal. It's so important, because obviously we lost that going from Highbury to the Emirates, because Highbury was a fortress, and everyone kind of knew everybody when you got there. There was always the same person that sat in, I think it's the East Stand, because I was in the North Bank with my dad and my brother. And there was always the same person in the East Stand that would always stand up. He used to wear a brown leather jacket. And when Arsenal went quiet, you guarantee that guy stood up and started singing, and guarantee within 10 seconds everyone would sing, because he was like the the conductor of the Highbury. It's such a tough bloke, and my dad met him a few times in the pub afterwards. And I just love Highbury. I will always love Highbury. It's a beautiful, beautiful place.
I got to go only once, and I'm glad I at least did it once in my lifetime. I would have regretted it.
It's a place, I've been to Wembley a few times to the Arsenal, but Highbury will always be my home. I've never had the privilege of being to the Emirates. I will go one day when I'm feeling better and all that stuff. But one day I do want to go, but Highbury will always be my home. How about when he connected with his long-lost Portuguese twin?
Boy Morte.
It's weird how much they look alike. Do you think the atmosphere changes now that the expectations are to win the league? Do you think that... Okay, I'm going to have to ask this question. Do you think that's the expectation
atmosphere? I'm glad that it's finally back, where we're loud and it's banging in that Emirates Stadium now. It wasn't, you could tell even from afar, it was dead for a while. And, pandemic maybe made it even worse. But now they see, our young club and young nucleus of players. And it's just the excitement of having such a good run the first half of the season. You could hear it every game. Like, you could hear the roar.
Yeah. But do you think that is our expectations for next season, to win the league? I'll start with you first, Moss.
Yeah, we got to go win the league now. We've set a standard, and everyone was always like, "Oh, we've exceeded expectations." I was like, "No, we're going like this." I was saying top two, and then when we had such a fabulous start, you heard me all at World Cup and Christmas time saying we're going to win the whole thing, and I was pretty pumped. But I just thought, yeah, I can't see any other team being better than us besides Man City. So yeah, now we have that expectation that we're now fighting for the league every season again, like it was in the 90s, and in early 2000s. So yeah, that's, once you bring us up, fans, to that level, that's what you expect. And so if we don't win the league, hopefully we're in a Champions League semi, or we're winning the FA Cup. That's our trophy. And, and we're having a good rotation now that, I think now it's totally Arteta's team, going forward. He's got no excuses. He should be able to change formations. He should have subs right. He should get rotations right, because this is 100% your team now going forward. So it's time that, he's got to take it another level too, Arteta.
Fair enough. What about you, Brenny?
Yeah, 100%. To challenge for the league next season. With the season just gone now, and I've said this already, with how we were in pre-season, how we did our business early, because I like the way we did our business early last season. And I looked at that. I looked at what we had, and I said,
Really,
wow,
Tony?
I think we'll be top. I said we'll be top two. I said we'll be top two. And I said we will be challenging this year. I didn't say we were going to win the league, but I said we'll be challenging. And I always say every year, I always expect Arsenal Football Club to challenge for honours. I've never ever said we're going to win. We're going to go for the league and win the league every year. I said challenge for honours. If you can get into a top 4 spot, okay. For me, like most, top 4 isn't a trophy, but if you can back up with a League Cup win or an FA Cup win, then so be it. Never ever. I mean, we're talking about Ian Wright, okay, and he's the kind of person that he would, he'd never disrespect the cups. He also said as well years ago. He said something. If he'd only just won an FA Cup winners medal in his whole career, he would be happy. Yeah.
He played balls out, Brenny. That's what made me see him that year. That he played balls out in that FA Cup every year. Remember, you were mentioning he just got back in time that one year with a broken leg.
Yeah.
But he just went flat out in FA Cup games for us, for Palace, for everything.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the thing. And that is that hunger he had. He wanted to win every game. And I believe that the footballers of today, I believe that they do want to win every game. And when it comes to them getting rested for these cup competitions, to be honest with you, if we're professional footballers, I don't want to be rested. I want to play.
Yeah. It's up to our manager to say, hey.
Exactly. I don't care if I'm playing Bury away in the third round of the FA Cup. I want to play. So for me, I expect us to challenge next season as well as all fronts for the cups. Just give it a go. We're not the kind. We're the kind of fans that if you give it a go in the League Cup, you give it a go in the FA Cup, you give it your best, and you lose, I'm not going to complain. But if you don't show us anything and you lose to fear, could be against City or United, or whoever, then I'll be disappointed. But if you go, just give it a go.
The only thing that's made me upset, Brenny, you're 100% dead straight. Brenny. The only thing that's ever I'm a pretty positive person about our club. I think everyone can admit that. The only thing that ever really pissed me off was that Nottingham Forest, that FA Cup. I'm like, how do you not get the guys up for this? How do you not have them up for this? Unbelievable.
Yeah. I was upset, not just with the manager. I was upset with everybody that day because we did not perform on the pitch.
This is the FA Cup.
And that performance against Forest was worse than the game we had against them in the league a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Even though that was pretty poor. But that was a poor performance. But next season I'm looking forward to it.
Let's get our FA Cup back where it belongs.
Exactly. Let's quickly go into some comments before we go into the last question. Look at how many World Class players we had at Highbury: 5, 6, 7, 8, 100. Look, I do get it, but that's what we're trying to build now.
We've had plenty of them.
Yeah, but we didn't have a lot of them. We always had one or two.
When was the first season again? I always forget. What was the first season, you guys, of Emirates? I always forget.
First season of the Emirates.
Yeah.
2006, 2007.
2006, 7? Okay. I'm always one off, I think.
Yeah. Arsenal deserve to be challenging every year for the biggest trophies. Look, that's what I always want. I want us to challenge. I don't expect us to win, but I want us to at least fight.
And passion for it.
Fight. That is what Arsenal have always been about. Arsene Wenger made fans believe, that was a big mistake.
I know, and I got used to that too, Brenny and Bobby. That's what I would always... because over here the banter's like, oh, your club this, your club that. It was always like, no one's ever doing what we've done, with Wenger. Yeah. We've been in the Champions League every single year. No one else can do that. So I got used to that too. I'm just saying, even though it should be first or second, but as long as we were in it. And we all got too used to that, I think.
True. Right. What very quick question. We'll start with Brenny first for the answer. Question to the panel: do you think Arsenal made a mistake of letting Andy Cole leave Arsenal?
Yeah. For me, yeah. He's Andrew Cole. He wanted to be called, remember? I just think he was a great talent, but we brought in Bear Camp. There was no pathway. Bobby talks about that too. When you don't see a pathway, he was probably him and his agent clamoring to get out. So that's what happened.
Yeah. Brenny, what about you?
But it's a mistake, yeah.
I would say yes. I would say yes, and the reason why is because you could see that there was a player there.
Yeah,
but I still felt there was more than enough to keep him there, because during those times we played 4-4-2s, and with the 4-4-2s you always had, there was nothing wrong with having 5 strikers, because if I can remember correctly, I think we had another youngster that we had at the time. I don't think he didn't make his first team debut, but he did the following season. Was Paul Dickov. And I liked Dickov as well, but he did so well for Man City, didn't he? But no, I think it was a mistake letting him go. I would have. You have Ian Wright, but then we would have had an abundance of strikes. So it would have been a case of, for me, it would have been like light for light, because Cole was on the verge of. You could see there was, like I said, there was a special talent there,
Yeah.
So it was a mistake, but I wasn't upset about it, because we still had enough up front.
Were you guys like me, Brandy and Bobby, when he was ripping it up at Newcastle? I wanted him back. I was like, sign him again, and then he went to Manchester United in that deal. But I was wanting him to come back at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Look, Tony's put it here.
I would have had him back.
Tony's saying no. At the time, it wasn't a mistake letting him go. The question could come up again with Balogun. It will come up again with Balogun. I promise you that, because Balogun is going to be something special. But I do get why we're selling him, because 1, he's worth a lot of money. We need to improve in other areas, and 2, he wouldn't fit our system. So it just makes sense. Arsenal forever trying to have a little bit of a joke here. Breaking news: Edu has bid 150 with a barbecue for a new barbecue. B&Q wants 200.
Enough marinating. Slap that beef on the
Look, guys. Arsenal will get our business done. We will get it done, but we're not going to pay stupid money for someone that's not worth the money. That's the factor that we're trying to do. We're not just going to say West Ham won 120. We're going to give 120.
Look at all the upgrades we just did on our salary base by signing all of our phenoms, young guys, to long-term deals. Our salary wage has gone way up. So there's a lot of balancing and a lot of figuring out that's needed.
Luke's saying here, I'd rather play a different system and keep the likes of Balogun and Tierney. Unfortunately, Balogun and Tierney are worth so much money to us that we need that money to improve in other areas. We've only got
but you got to admit that I think now going forward, Bobby, we're going to be more changing our formations. At least I hope so, and I think Arteta has that going forward with them, because I think he had to make that whole new system, the basically 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, because he was trying to adapt so Xhaka could be comfortable and we could play around him and with them. And I think we're going to be a lot more flexible, especially if we're getting someone like Havertz and Rice. We can really change up our formation a lot more.
Yeah, Arsenal forever saying here, Arsenal summer transfer shouldn't be a window of compromise. There is no compromising. It's a fact that we are getting exactly who we want. It's just we're not going to overpay.
We're not going to be able to afford Caicedo and Rice.
No. I'm gonna stop you there.
Because look at the salary it's going up to with Chelsea for Caicedo. It's not.
Hang on. The fact is, the Caicedo one is all to do with agent. There's a big problem with that agent. He wants ridiculous amounts of money. And Caicedo has all of a sudden not want to play Champions League football.
When that was the mandatory before.
Yes. So personally, I'm not that bothered, but we would have paid it. We would have paid the 80 million. We would have paid the whatever we're going to pay for Declan and get both. So I like what the journalists are trying to do, saying, "Oh, they've never had them." Of course, we've got loads of money. We're going to spend over 300
I'm not
million.
saying about transfer money. I'm just saying the wages are going to be out of control if we kept battling and going higher and higher.
look, Kai Havertz is an option we're looking at, but there was going to be others other than Kai Havertz and Declan Rice. There will be another right wing forward as well that is of good quality. There's going to be a fullback, hopefully, a centre back, hopefully, another midfielder, hopefully. We're going to spend big. I'm excited, and trust me, I'm not the most positive about Arteta or Edu. I'm excited about what they're planning this summer. Look, this one annoys me. I have to be honest, because not only have they got Kulusevski, they've got a £5 million discount off him as well. It frustrates me that Edu couldn't have snuck in there, because Kulu is actually an Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we could have got
King has always told us that Kulusevski's a Swedish gooner. He
is actually an Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
Arsenal tried to sign Caicedo in January, and not to bother trying to sign makes no sense at all. We would never be able to get him in January. Brighton were not willing to sell him. They were going to sign him to a new deal no matter what, to protect his market value. Now, what is happening now with Caicedo is not down to Brighton. It's down to the agent. The agent is extremely interesting. That's the nicest way I can put it. He's an interesting fellow, and he's demanding a lot of money. Bargo saying, why can't we sell Eddie? Look, I've told you that there's going to be some players that leave this summer that might surprise people. Eddie's a possible. He's a possible might be sold. You don't know yet.
It's a pleasure, Bobby Brenny, to not be in that desperate mode anymore. Where now we're signing guys. We're not desperate to sign, and you know, we don't have to buy you. We got all the players we need, and we don't have to sell. So we can wait for a good offer on Eddie. We can wait for a good offer on Tierney. We don't have to. We're not desperate anymore. We're in more of a power position, getting to be like City and Liverpool and whatnot.
Yeah, and this is that perfectly leads into what I'm going to say about Luke's comment about KSE need to show the same ambition for Arsenal that they have for the American teams, i.e., get Rice done. Right. The reason this doesn't work with what you're saying, and Brady's going to disagree with me here, but the fact is we want to look powerful negotiating wise. So we don't want to be told, oh, you're paying us 120. Oh, okay, then. We're going to negotiate, because at the end of the day, next season, we won't
set precedents, don't you, Bobby? If you waver and capitulate one way, you're going to lose out on another thing and get your pants pulled down on another deal. You know, you gotta show what you're about.
What I will say is Declan Rice is not worth 120 million market value. That is what West Ham are valuing him at. Arsenal do not value him at that. Arsenal actually value him at 80 million. We're going over that, but we're not going to go as high as what West Ham want. So there's a middle ground, and that's where teams have got to realise Arsenal will start to negotiate now. So, look, I'm looking forward to what we're doing. I agree with Arsenal. Kai is not the answer, but we are offloading.
Yeah, we should be slow playing this Kai Havertz thing.
We need to get our players in as quick as we possibly can. Arsenal prefer to offer average players like Eddie Nelson. Look, I don't agree with the Eddie deal, but it's not as much as everyone thinks it is.
Yeah, it isn't. That's right.
Yeah.
I
hate the fact that the journos just put out 100,000 they're getting paid. No, they're not. That's
he's not on that. Yeah, I agree.
He's on 70. I think it's 76,000 is his base wage. Then it's the rest of it is add-ons, and that's only if he achieves them. Right. He's not achieved them this season, so he's not never been paid 100,000 a week. I guarantee you that this season. So it's all to do with add-ons. People need to chill about these wages.
The journals structure it, and
the problem is it's also Arsenal journos that push it out there, and they know they're talking rubbish because they have the same ability to see what I can see. So I know they're pushing rubbish, and I don't know why they're doing it. KSE are good owners. They are. Josh is doing a fantastic job. Stan doesn't really care. But Josh is very passionate about Arsenal, and I do like him.
He was even in the Nuggets celebration. Josh was wearing an Arsenal hat. Got to give it to him.
Tony, again, saying Lavia over Caicedo. They aren't flashy spenders, but they are winners everywhere they go. Exactly. And the fact is, what I will say about KSE, their project or process, whatever you want to call it, is the same at every single club they own, including Arsenal. So they do have a plan, and I honestly do think.
And then they stay out of it. They stay clear. They let you do your professional work.
And
That's what I want. I don't want a Jerry Jones or a Todd Bowley trying to have their egos in your club and telling professionals what they should do and don't do. No, it turns into a clown show.
Yeah, and I know that Fabio Romano put something out there the other day, and a lot of people grabbed onto it, saying that Arsenal have to go back to the Kroenkes before to get permission to sign a certain player. That is absolute rubbish.
That's false.
Arsenal are given a certain amount of money. They obviously know who they want. Obviously, they're told that.
And there's not one bit of Kroenke saying, go get this guy or that guy or save this guy. They're not saying them to do anything.
I'm honestly, I'm fed up with the journos and these big people that go out there and spill absolute rubbish. It really upsets me and it annoys me because it's just absolute rubbish. I trust the recruitment. Right now, I totally do. American sport and Premier League applies to
it's completely
oranges.
Different.
Yes, 100%. Because this is not. I don't want to say that American sports is easy to win because I don't want to go there. But the Premier League is extremely hard to win, especially against Man City.
Stanley Cup is the hardest.
Well, we could all argue about what's the hardest thing to win, but the Premier League has 20 very good teams in it, and Man City are basically like a Ben Johnson. And you know what I mean by that, and I don't want to say the word, but everyone knows who I'm on about when I say Ben Johnson. They're kind of on something. Nuggets' best two players were drafted, i.e. they cost them the least amount of money. If Rice was Arsenal number one target, we should have put the 100 million instead of this.
You never do that.
Oh, okay. I tell you.
So then we'd end up paying 120 then.
Look, the fact is, we didn't upset West Ham with the first offer. His market value is 80 million. Like, everyone looks at this market value. All teams look at the market value. He's only got 2 years left on his contract. He's not going to sign a new one. Declan wants to leave West Ham, and we offered 80 plus 10 million in add-ons. That comes to 90 million. It is not a crazy offer, and West Ham weren't upset. I know people said it was what do they call the offer? Insulting or something, embarrassing offer. It wasn't an embarrassing offer. It's just the journos want to turn on Arsenal like they always do. Because if you hadn't noticed, when Chelsea put their offering for Caicedo, which was a couple of days ago, which was less than Arsenal put in January, bear in mind, ours was called embarrassing in January. Chelsea's has not been called a single thing.
Yeah.
Even
what
though
about all
Caicedo
these things going on, Mount, there's tons of clubs not getting their big deals done.
Exactly. And the fact is, honestly, it's madness. The only deal that's actually really happened right now, João Pedro, yes, to Brighton, but that was sorted way before the window was open. And McAllister was a release clause. All you have to do is release that clause and it's done. There's nothing else to be done.
There's a lot of things that are done that are not being announced right now.
Arsenal are the only club that keeps getting on bids rejected. I guarantee you, every single club right now is having bids rejected. Yeah, it's just not in the public eye. Every club, I guarantee the last day of the season, clubs were going out trying to sign their targets. It's just because
we find out when agents need to release something to help their client, or when the club's trying to say, oh, City's coming in so that we raise our level. It's convenient what news gets released.
Yeah,
that's all we can say. But there's a million deals going on right now.
Exactly. Honestly, I know there is hundreds of stuff going on, and just because I know this is all to do with social media again, and it's because everyone just trusts Orney or Romano or whoever else you choose to listen to. Trust me, they are not to be 100% believed. They are paid by certain people to release information. They don't just.
It's all it's planned out.
Honestly, you can probably tell I'm getting frustrated because it really frustrates me that so much is pumped out there that is absolute rubbish. And Arsenal are the only team that gets moaned at. Who else has signed anybody right now? No one. No one has, apart from Liverpool and Brighton. And Brentford, I think, have just announced a new signing today. But that's an under-20-year-old. It's quite a simple task. No one else is signed.
You're deciding who you're releasing. You're
know what it is.
Who you're restructuring. You're deciding who you're renewing.
Right, can I say all in the chat? It's like I do get that. I hear what you're saying, Bobby, and you're not wrong. But it's all the fans do get frustrated year in year out with this, and I do see something different to previous seasons with regards to how we're going about our business. Yeah. But I just thinking about it now, because I was frustrated a few days ago, but then last night I was actually thinking, after like watching yourself and Canners last night, I was thinking, you know what? Let's just wait and see what happens.
Lukaku, go!
And that's all for me personally. That's all I can do. But I do hope we do get our business done early. Arsene Wenger always said it's important to get your business done in June, July. So,
well, it doesn't start as soon too this year, Brenny. Like last year, we had to get done, and look how getting our business done quick helped us to get our team going and have a great start to the season. And
well, that's the thing. But we used to do that.
We got almost like a month here more now this year.
Yeah, but the reason why I say we used to do that, we also used to do that a lot. Say towards the end of June, July, was basically you want the players to integrate into the preseason as well. So
exactly, and that's what works so good
in that regard. Yeah. You know what I mean? So but I'm looking at it. I think we will get the Rice deal done. I think we will. I think eventually we'll get it over the line, and he does want to join us. So yeah.
Okay, Arsenal forever. The Jude Bellingham deal had been done for months. It just a couple of bits needed to be done at the end, but Jude was leaving no matter what. He wasn't going to Liverpool because it was clear that Liverpool weren't going to make Champions League. So that was done ages ago. That's why, again, that one's been for. But what other European clubs have signed many players? No one really. So I don't know why Arsenal are the only ones that are being picked on for not signing anyone. It's madness. We will sign. I guarantee you. I'm pretty sure we'll sign 3 by the end of June. So I'm perfectly chilled. A lot of the players are away on international duty. Kind of hard to pick up your Arsenal shirt whilst you're playing for England or playing for Germany or wherever you are right now.
To do the final signing of a contract, the guy needs to be there.
Yeah, they kind of need to be in the country to sign the contract. It's kind of needed. Usually waiver deals happen first week after players get back from vacation. Yes, but I think a couple of them will happen after the internationals, and then they go on vacation. I think we'll get a couple of done before they go on holiday for 2 weeks. So I'm not panicking whatsoever. Third biggest club, we cannot get a big signing like Mbappe, Hillwood, who was broke, had more ambitions, unfortunately. Look, Mbappe is a different situation altogether.
That is crazy.
He's out of contract next season, and the funny thing is, so is Harry Kane. So 2 big strikers in the world are going to be on freeze next summer. But look, Mbappe,
his wages are out of control, man.
There you go. Look,
there's no team can afford him.
I know we're going to bend our wage structure a little bit to get the signings we want this summer, but we're not going to bend it that much. That's a ridiculous amount of much. Let's be honest. Yes, we can earn a lot from image rights with Kylian Mbappe. And yes, I mentioned it in Arsenal News, but I was on about next summer. There's a possibility, if he stays this summer and he's still out of contract for next summer, there is a possibility. I'm sure we'll put an offer in, and it's up to Mbappe at the end of the day what he wants to do. And it won't be about money because Mbappe is not like that, actually. He's very different. Hopefully one of those 3 isn't Havertz. Look, I'm open to the idea. Me and Moss were talking about it on the watch-along that we just did, that both of us liked Havertz before he came to Chelsea. So for me...
He's only 24 still.
I'm blanking out the Chelsea career and going, yes, I still want him from Germany because that's where we're getting him from.
He scored a goal to win the Champions League. He will be bringing experience to a club at 24 years old already. And I don't know, like me and Bobby said, he's always been banging for Germany. Yeah. He's always played well for Germany. Yeah. But I just didn't want to spend 55, 60, 70 million like Chelsea want. And I think the power is in our hands by waiting.
Yeah.
Because they got to sell.
Yeah.
They're frustrated that Mount hasn't sold the Man U. They're slow playing them.
They'll have a few panic sells soon. Why can't we even get even top 10 player regularly like Man United do?
Man U aren't getting anything this year so far.
Man United do not have a wage structure at all. If someone told them to pay 600,000 a week for someone, they'd go, yes, okay. But Arsenal are being sensible because we want to be self-sustainable, like we always have been in all our history. We want to do that again, so we don't want to go mad. And there's nothing wrong with that for me. I've had a really bit offended about Arsenal summer, but I can't lie. Look at last summer. Yes, we got Jesus and Zinchenko, but it still wasn't good enough. This season, this is why he said reset. We are going to be going big this summer. I tell you, everyone, guys, it's going to be over 300 million. I'm sure we'll spend over 300 million, which is a lot of players. I'm sure we'll all be happy at the end. Just trust the Arsenal. Guys, I need to put Blake to bed. So, Brenny, where can everyone find you, mate?
Everyone, you can find me here on the RTV, and you can also find me on Instagram and Twitter.
Awesome stuff. Moss, where can they find you, mate?
74, my 1974 bro. Yeah, get him on Instagram, Brenny K74. Mine's CK Moss 16. And we're across the pond sports talk, me and Luke, and Bobby helps us out quite a bit. And we go on with full-time sports and the Armoury TV quite a bit. We're in the Discords and the WhatsApps and all that kind of jazz. But across the pond sports talk, we do all sports. We'll be doing NFL this fall, of course, and currently doing CFL in the big game. Come join us tomorrow for the CONCACAF Nations League final, maybe our first trophy, Canada, in 23 years. Canada versus USA. Come join us tomorrow night. Thanks a lot, Bobby. Were you talking Brentford's big signing, Romeo Beckham?
Yes, he signed a 1-year deal to stay at Brentford B team. So, yeah, that's an interesting signing.
That German guy was their record signing now, Brentford. Sade. Remember we were saying how good he was?
Yeah, he signed for
last year when he would be subbing in all the time.
Yeah, we're not going to bring in players that require us to challenge and compete on all fronts. I'm not going to tell you to be positive, but I just think allow us to impress this summer window. Yeah. I think, look, Arteta is not someone that wants to just be okay. He wants to push on for these challenges. You know, he wants to be amazed and wants to amaze the fans. There is going to be a little bit of a tweak to our tactics next season. I know that.
I think we're going to change things more.
But guys, it's been a great show talking about Ian Wright and talking about a lot of other stuff, as we always seem to do.
So what officially goes down now? Like, is there a ceremony for Righty, or what's?
He'll go to whatever cast it will be or palace that he's been invited to, and
it'll be on your guys' TV or what? Like,
no, it's never really on TV. They'll be just like
he'll get a big thing, and
he'll be on Twitter.
He'll probably share his video. Yeah.
You know what Ian's like. But guys, take care, everyone. Bye bye. I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.
Everyone.